Well, hey everybody, welcome to Oasis Church Online. It's so awesome that you tuned in today. My name is Wes, I work here at the church, and we have a great service plan, and our service is about to begin in just a moment. Before we do that, I just want to let you know that if you are in the Winnipeg area, we would love for you to visit us, and we have a spot for you at our 9:30 and 11:15 services. Well, today is going to look a little bit different because we are dedicating our whole service to our partnership with our organization called Villages of Hope in Malawi. And our lead pastor, Dustin, he's going to be talking more about that in just a moment. But before we do that, the band is going to kick things off with a song. So we'll see you in just a moment.
Message wherever you stand. I'm calling every woman, calling every man. We're the generation who can't afford to wait. The future started yesterday, we're already late. We've been looking for a song to sing, search for a melody, search for someone to lead. We've been looking for the world to change. If you feel the same, then go on and say, if you're out there, then sing along with me. If you're out there, I'm dying to believe that you're out there. Stand up and say it loud. If you're out there, tomorrow's starting now. Promises, no more call to war, unless it's love and peace that we're really fighting for. We can destroy hunger, we can conquer hate. Put down the arms and raise your voice, we're joining hands today. Oh, I've been looking for a song to sing, search for a leader, but the leader was me. For the world to change, we can be heroes. Just go on and say, if you're out there, sing along with me. If you're out there, I'm dying to believe that you're out there. Stand up and say it loud. If you're out there, tomorrow's starting now. Oh you're out there, stand up and say it loud. If you're out there, tomorrow's starting now. If you're out there, oh, if you're out there, yeah. If you hear this message, wherever you stand, calling every woman, calling every man, we're the generation who can't afford to wait. The future started yesterday, and we're already late.
Wow. Hey, everybody, welcome here. Those images that you saw on the screen are from the country of Malawi. And just beautiful, beautiful images. We are going to be talking more of that in just a moment. But hey, welcome here to those of you that are watching online. To those of you who are in the room, welcome here. Hey, if you're a guest here, if this is your first time here, stop by Guest Services on your way out, and we would love to just get a free gift into your hand. Hey, if you're wondering what's happening today might look a little bit more unique, a little bit different. As those images that you just saw, we are going to spend the whole service talking about our partnership with the organization called Villages of Hope in Malawi. You know, as part of the role of the church, one of our roles is that we help the poorest of the poor in this world, and in Malawi, that's what you're going to get. So this is a fantastic opportunity for you to help. That's like a fantastic opportunity for you to help online right where you're at as well. Hey, we're gonna start off that. We're gonna dig into that right away. But before, I want to let you know about our Christmas season is coming up, and we are excited that we can have some Christmas Eve services this year. So we decided we're going to do 5 Christmas Eve services, 2 on the evening of the 23rd, and 3 on the 24th to give everybody some options. And of course, these may be subject to change, so just stay tuned. It's going to be RSVP, and you'll be able to do that on December 13th. So put that into your calendars. And speaking of Christmas, next Sunday, we are kicking off our Christmas series. And we would love to get this building ready for Christmas. So all our environments, our kids' environments, student environments, this room out there, we have a lot of Christmas trees to set up, the Christmas decorations. So if you're free this Tuesday, 2 days from now, at 9 in the morning, just for a few hours, if you want to come here, we would love to put you to work and help us set up Christmas trees. And set up decorations to get this whole building ready for the Christmas season. What else is going on here? We're going to start off by singing some songs together, and we just want to invite you to sing through your mask today, as we do have to keep them on all services. But you know what's really cool is that we're part of a church, but more importantly, we're part of the global community of the church. And you know, this time of day, all over the world, thousands and thousands and thousands of churches just like this, smaller, bigger, they're meeting and all going to sing about the same God in all different languages we have never even heard of. So it's pretty exciting that we can do that together. And we got a great band together. We got Arnold, and we got Lauren, we got Josiah, and we got Jordan singing with us. Jordan just sang that song. He's a Juno Award winner, by the way. So that's pretty awesome that he can, way to go, Jordan, that we can have that today. But we're going to invite you guys to stand up, and we have an amazing chance to sing about the goodness of God, that He is good for who He had, for what He's done in our lives. So why don't you stand up and sing with us?
And all my days I've been held in your hands. From the moment that I wake up until I lay my head, oh, I will sing of the goodness of God. All my life you have been faithful. Yes, all my life you have been so, so good. With every breath that I am able, oh, I will sing of the goodness of God. I love your voice. Oh, you have led me through the fire, and in darkest nights, you are close like no other. Oh, I've known you as a father, and I've known you as a friend, and I have lived in the goodness of God. All my life you have been faithful. All my life you have been so, so good. With every breath that I am able, oh, I will sing of the goodness of God. Your goodness is running after, it's running after me. Your goodness is running after, it's running after me. With my life laid down, I surrender now. I give you everything. Your goodness is running after, it's running after me. And all my life you have been faithful. Yes, all my life you have been so, so good. With every breath that I am able, oh, I'm gonna sing of the goodness of God. All my life you have been faithful. All my life you have been so, so good. With every breath that I am able, oh, I will sing of the goodness of God. Oh, I will sing of the goodness of God. Well, we're going to sing more in a few moments, but for now, you can have a seat.
My name is Alfred Banda. I'm age 21. I work at Village of Hope as assistant teacher, assisting on daily basis, like helping the kids do their daily activities. My mother left me behind the backyard when I was a kid, maybe around 2 years old. My grandma, she was raising me up to be a good kid, but things were not as good as it could be because she was having difficulty to find food for the whole family because I was like living with my 9 other relatives. It became so difficult for her to find food for our daily needs.
Alfred joined VOH when he was 7 years old. He was staying with his grandmother and had been living with her for the previous 5 years. She was already overwhelmed with a lot of family to care for, and being the only breadwinner, there were days where there was no food at home for anyone to eat. And so VOH entered his life and joined with the grandmother in caring for him and bringing hope when things were hard at home. Alfred also is a deeply spiritual person, and he shares the gospel with the VOH children in a powerful way because his story touches their story, and they see how Christ has brought him through, and they can seize that hope for themselves.
Remembering when I was a kid, back then I didn't know anything about Christianity. I was just like maybe a prodigal son who was moving around the streets. I tried to be one of the survivors. After coming to Village of Hope, Malawi, I was introduced to Christianity, where I learned more about Jesus Christ, knowing him to be the source of my hope of this life. And I saw him being my hope because I was able to witness his fruits into my life, sharing me the fruits of life, love, care, which I give up my soul to him to be my Lord and Savior.
Fast forward and we find Alfred graduated from secondary school and a VOH alumnus, one of whom we're very proud. As Alfred studies business administration at university, he often talks about how he would dream of getting his master's degree and having some success in business that he might give back to Malawi. He hopes to be a support to other vulnerable children, whether that's just by sharing his story and how he has overcome so much and how he has become a man who takes his life seriously, a man who provides now for his family, a man who can give back to his grandmother who gave so much for him. These are just some of the ways he envisions giving back to this society and becoming that contributing member of society that is the dream of the VOH organization. Alfred truly is an example of what hope can do. And so we are so proud of him and so thankful for what God has done in his life, so thankful for what God has in store for him. In fact, we can't wait to see what will happen next.
Well, what an incredible story of the power of child sponsorship. Just that the benefits extend far beyond just one child, that they impact those around them. And now you see Alfred giving back into this community. It's amazing. Many of us in this room, maybe even all of us in this room, will never experienced life as Alfred has. That we've never felt the pangs of hunger that deep, never felt that much uncertainty about tomorrow. We have our own struggles here, but one who is acutely aware of all our struggles, no matter where in the world we grew up, no matter our situation or what's going on, is Jesus. And an outsider looking into Christianity may think that Christians worship this God that is distant and removed. But we are entering a season where we are reminded that our God came to live among us, that he came as the most helpless and vulnerable little baby, not born in the warmth of a home or the safety of a first world hospital, but born more into a world more like Alfred's rather than ours. And what an incredible thing to think about, that he can identify with the pain that we feel, with the hardship that we face. And not only that, but through his life, his death, and resurrection, that he has redeemed all of that. And so we're going to stand and sing about that now in this next song. Would you join us and stand with us?
Perfect Son of God, in all his innocence, you're walking in the dark with you and me. He knows what living is, he's acquainted with our grief. A man of sorrow, son of suffering, blood and tears. How can it be that there's a God who weeps, there's a God who bleeds? Praise the one Some imagine you are distant and removed, but you chased us down in merciful pursuit. To the sinner you were grace, and the broken you embraced. And in the end the proof is in your wounds. Yes, in the end the proof is in your wounds. Blood and tears, how can it be that there's a God who weeps and there's a God who bleeds? Oh, praise the one who would reach for me. Hallelujah to the Son of suffering. Yeah. Your cross, my freedom, your stripes, my healing, all praise, King Jesus. Glory to God in heaven. Your blood still speaking, your love still reaching, all praise, King Jesus. Glory to God forever. Glory to God forever. Glory to God forever. Your cross, my freedom, your stripes, my healing, all praise, King Jesus. Glory to God in heaven. Your blood still speaking, your love still reaching, all praise, King Jesus. Glory to God forever. Your cross is my freedom, your stripes, my healing, all praise, King Jesus. Glory to God in heaven. Your blood still speaking, your love still reaching, all praise, King Jesus. Glory to God forever. Glory to God forever. Oh, blood and tears, how can it be that there's a God who weeps and there's a God who bleeds? Praise the one who will reach for me. Hallelujah to the Son of suffering. Hallelujah to the Son of suffering. Hallelujah to the Son of suffering.
There's a line in that song that said, "Some think God is distant and removed." You know, if that is you today, if that's you watching online, you need to know that there's nothing that can be farther from the truth. That you have a Heavenly Father that will pursue you at all costs. Why don't you join me as we pray? God, help us to know that today, that you will pursue us, that we will feel you pursuing us. And it's our job, God, to reduce the noise and the chaos of our lives. The culture, the society, the media, everything that we we clog our minds and our ears with, we'll just put it aside and just open our hearts and our ears and our souls to you pursuing us, that you're running after us. We just thank you that you're a God that loves us so much that you just died for us. And we turn our attention over to the scriptures, as we turn our attention over to what is going on in other parts of this world, that you will inspire us, you'll guide us, you'll lead us, you'll teach us. In your name we pray. Amen. Thanks for singing with us. Why don't you grab a seat? Well, right now we have a chance to give back to God. And if you're a guest today, and we would, please don't feel obligated to participate in this part of the service, but we hope you really receive from being here today. But for those of you who call Oasis your church home, for those of us in the Oasis church family, give with this perspective. I want to show you some words from Jesus. This is what he said in the book of Luke. He said, I want you to give away your life, but you'll find a life given back, but not merely given back with bonus and blessing. Because giving, not getting, is the way. You know, as Jesus followers, we are called to model this generous life, because it's in this life, this generous life is the full, exciting, and the rich life is actually found. So give with that perspective today. And we'd love to give you a moment right now in this room as well, online, to do that right now. Thanks so much for your giving.
Well, hey, I am super excited for this Sunday where I have the opportunity to talk about this partnership that we have had for the past 2 years with Village of Hope Malawi. And your generosity really is making a big impact. Our church's generosity is making a huge impact in their ministry there. And the world's been really turned upside down a lot from COVID last year. Same thing in Malawi. And they've still soldiered on, serving the poor. And we're going to talk to you about that in some ways we can help going forward the end of 2021 and into 2022 and beyond. But before that, let me just talk about why we're doing that. It's something to be reminded about with all our problems and all of life disrupted. We still have it pretty good here. We're facing in our world right now a number of the greatest humanitarian crises in history. War, famine, disease, and what we're looking at today with Malawi is especially extreme poverty. Just that today still hundreds of millions of people live on less than $2 a day. And these are real people with real names, real stories. For us as followers of Jesus, this is so significant because Jesus talked so often about our responsibility to those in need. And this one time in Matthew 25, it records Jesus speaking about the future. And he's talking about how one day when he returns, there's going to be judgment. And he gives us this picture, this analogy of what this is going to be like. And he says this: all the nations will be gathered in his presence. And here he's talking about himself. It's kind of weird using this third person thing about himself. He says, so he could have said, all the nations will be gathered in my presence, and I will separate them as a shepherd separates the sheep from the goats. Then the king will say to those on his right, come, you who are blessed by my Father, inherit the kingdom prepared for you from the foundation of the world. For I was hungry, and you fed me. I was thirsty, you gave me a drink. I was a stranger, you invited me into your home. I was naked, and you gave me clothing. I was sick, and you cared for me. I was in prison, and you visited me. And then these people will say, Lord, what are you talking about? Like, when did we ever see you hungry, feed you, thirsty, give you something to drink? When did we ever see you, naked and clothe you, or, visit you in prison? And the king will say to them, I assure you, when you did it to one of the least of these, my brothers, you were doing it to me. And then the story, it's not the story, this is recording history. Jesus goes on, and he says to those on his left, he says, depart from me, you enter into judgment, because I was hungry, and you didn't do anything about it. And I was thirsty, and you didn't give me anything to drink. And it's like, what? Like, when did we not do that? And he will answer, I assure you, when you refuse to help the least of these, my brothers and sisters, you were refusing to help me. And they will go away into eternal punishment, but the righteous will go into eternal life. Very haunting words, sobering words. Side note, this is very similar. We talked about this story, you'll remember, about 5-6 weeks ago when we looked at forgiveness. And Jesus said, hey, forgiveness is like a window into what's going on in your heart. If you don't forgive others, chances are you probably have not really received God's forgiveness in your heart, because that's what happens. And in the same way, he's not saying you're saved, that's going to be the thing on judgment, that it's going to be just, did you serve the poor? No, it's going to be based on whether or not we accepted Christ and received his forgiveness. But when that lands in our hearts, it transforms us. And all of a sudden, we're concerned with these things. So that's one thing to note. These actions are signs and pointers. They are inextricably linked with our heart. But also, it's so important to realize that there is a coming day of judgment. This is so important for our society, where every day we're told, doesn't matter how you live, just, you're okay and I'm okay, and it's all relative. A day of judgment is set. And the good news of the gospel is that the judge has been judged on our behalf. That's why we share the gospel. But here's why I share that story. That's not story, okay, that history. Why do I keep saying that? Well, here's why I share that account of Jesus' life. The point is, there's going to be a separation, and there's going to be this, it's going to be easy. He said it's going to be like a shepherd separating sheep from goats. For us city folk, that might be hard, and it's like, I don't know how I'd do with that, but for a shepherd, that's easy. For a rancher, that's easy. It's going to be evident. There's going to be unmistakable marks. And Jesus said one of the unmistakable marks of his followers is that they would care for the poor. I was hungry, you fed me. I was thirsty, you gave me something to drink. Jesus gave this vision of his followers where they would be these brightly lit communities. They'd be a city on a hill, visible for miles around, holding out hope for eternity, but also transforming this world and these little communities of heaven that are a foretaste of the age to come. And we don't get it right. We're not perfect, but Jesus said the church would be his enduring presence. It'd be his transforming and redemptive agent on this planet. And if you've ever wondered, okay, I'm saved now, like I'm good for eternity. Why am I still here? The answer is that you get to be part of his work in this world. And you get to say this prayer, the Lord's Prayer. Your kingdom come, your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. We're part of joining his mission. Now, why that's so important is, as I mentioned earlier, we still have a problem of extreme poverty. Extreme poverty. Now, what is extreme poverty? It's a bit of a review from last year. There's a great book that lays this out. The guy's name's Bryant James, and his book called Walking with the Poor. He's a professor in Southern California. He says, what is extreme poverty? Number one, it's hunger. It's hunger. Now, we don't really know what this is. Probably, maybe very few of us in our life have had real experiences with this. Maybe you are if you grew up. Not to say there isn't poverty here, but global poverty is on a different level. Like sometimes we get hangry, right? We don't have food. My wife hides almonds in every like glove compartment and purse and everything so that doesn't happen. But to be hungry over a long period of time, that extreme poverty is the experience of just gnawing hunger day after day. Extreme poverty is lack of good shelter, where all of a sudden you're sharing your space that you're living with mosquitoes, with cockroaches, with rats, sometimes other larger animals, dogs, and you're just exposed to the elements. You're exposed to the cold and the wind and the rain. In the summer, you're exposed to the heat. You live in your sweat, and just lack of any security. And there's kind of this idea of, why would I buy tools and get ahead? I can't protect those. They're going to be stolen. I have no way to ensure the safety of my belongings or even my loved ones sometimes. What is extreme poverty? Number 3, it's poor sanitation. Some slums in India where they have one toilet per every 1,000 people. And just the unwritten kind of part of not having a real home or sanitation is that disease spreads quicker. And it just makes life harder. You're spending so much time getting water and doing essentials that we take for granted. And you turn on a tap and you have that. What's extreme poverty? Little or no medical care. So many children, or 2,000 children globally die every day because of diarrhea. You can cure that with a pill that costs pennies, but often it can't get there. They don't have the resources even for that. What's extreme poverty? Little or no education, where there's just no access, or sometimes they just don't have time. They have to work to help support their family. And the last one, what's extreme poverty? Number 6 is little or no economic activities. And as I mentioned earlier, so many statistics find that there's around 750 million people in our world that live on less than $2 a day. Now, here's the real thing, though. That's troubling enough. But in his book, Brian James says, it's not just extreme poverty, but it's extreme poverty plus X. And X in this equation is, a natural disaster, a war, a famine, the COVID pandemic that just interrupts work and supply chains. And he says, when you add that up, when you have extreme poverty plus one of those things, death of a breadwinner, HIV, AIDS crisis, sub-Saharan Africa is a real problem, you just have abject misery, where there's a level of suffering, a level of doing life that's just hard. And it's hard and it's mind-boggling. And then he says this doesn't even end there, but it's this misery over time. And you add this on for years or generations sometimes, and they begin to internalize the misery of life. And they begin to believe that maybe God has relegated me to a life of poverty or the life of suffering like this. Begin to see themselves sometimes as worthless, and there's a listlessness, a hopelessness. And someone comes along and says, hey, there's a God that loves you. And that's even hard to process because of how hard life is. And so this has got to move us. This has got to move us. Jesus said one of the unmistakable marks of his followers that they would care for the poor. And so with that in mind, I want to read you some verses that I've read you just about every year end for the last 10 years that I just think are, as we come to year end and we reflect on God's goodness to us, I think these are so relevant. These are from one of my heroes, a guy named Paul of Tarsus, Apostle Paul, St. Paul in your tradition, and he writes to a apprentice of his. He writes to a guy named Timothy. If you have a New Testament, you have 2 of his letters that he writes. And Timothy is pastoring some rich people. He's a pastor in the suburbs like us here. Okay, so he's pastoring some rich people. And I'm struck by the relevance of these words. And this is what he says. He says, command those who are rich in this present world not to be arrogant. You kind of want to say, I guess it was a problem then too, okay? And so, nor to put their hope in wealth, which is so uncertain. This is what we talked about last week. It's just so easy to look at that stack of money, that retirement or trust fund or whatever, and say, I'm good. Now I'm safe. He says, no, that's not what you're supposed to do. He says, command those who are rich to put their hope in God. And this is great because he says, look, he richly provides us with everything for our enjoyment. So he doesn't say it's not bad to enjoy life, but don't let that be the focus of your life. Don't let that be the reason that you're alive, that you're living for these things. He provides these for our enjoyment. But let's not miss this. He says this, command those who are rich in this present world. Now, the problem with that is every time I talk about that, no one says, I'm rich, right? No one ever almost defines themselves that way. It's very interesting sociological studies you can look at where people always look at the group above them in socioeconomic strata and say, I'm not rich. they're rich. Even people that are like mega rich say, well, I don't know if I'm rich, right? They're rich. Globally speaking, living when and where we do, most of us are in this category of historically speaking, globally speaking, rich people. Where if you have extra money somewhere, you have extra money in a dish beside your bed, under your mattress, in the bank, that's a luxury that billions of people in this world don't have. They are living day to day, hand to mouth. Here's the command written to us, just rich people. It says this: command those who are rich in this present world, command them to be good, be rich in good deeds, and to be generous and willing to share. Go beyond average. Because God has blessed you, because you have so much, now you have the opportunity not just to be rich, but be rich in good deeds. And some of my kids, both my boys, not some of them, all of them, were making fun of me last week because I messed up this statistic if you were here in service 2 last week. But so many studies find that the more you make, the richer you get, the less you give as a percentage of income. Now, it should be the opposite, right? You say, okay, I need this much to live, and if I'm making now, my income's going up, then I got more to be generous. But all studies find, no, you give less, at least as a percentage of income. And so this is a command from this seasoned pastor to this young apprentice. Hey, command those people that are in your church not to get sucked into the vortex that says, this is all about me. You now have an incredible opportunity to go beyond average. And, I gave a few, dollars to, the people swinging the bell at Christmas time, or I helped the old lady cross the street. That's good. But now, because you've been blessed with riches, you have the incredible opportunity to go beyond average generosity and give as only rich people can give. And so, with that being said, I am so excited to talk about our partnership with Villages of Hope Malawi. This has been going on for 2 years. We began this partnership with them in 2019. This is a Christian-based charity that what they do is they care for orphans and vulnerable children. They currently have 10 villages in 5 different African countries. And, there's lots of good that you can do. They said, here's the 4 pillars of our work. What are we all going to be about? We're going to be about food and nutrition. Now, this is not a daily thing. They don't go home with the chicken every day, okay? But this was a special distribution that they did to their families of these sponsored children. But they do get fed every day. Food and nutrition. They also said, hey, we're going to take care of education. And they have phenomenal teachers that just teach these children. They also look after physical care and physical health care and needs, so that they need a ride to their hospital, or someone in their family does. They provide that. And also spiritual care. Pastor Troy was there near the end of 2019. He's going to be up here in a moment to help me talk about this. But that's what they're all about. This organization is the real deal. They're in it for the long haul. And we bring this before you with confidence in what they do. Now, just to take a step back to realize where we are, I know all of you know exactly where Malawi is in the world, but just for maybe 1 or 2 of you who don't, this is Africa, okay? And this is Malawi down here, okay? So this is sub-Saharan Africa. This is one of the poorest countries in the world, and it's definitely in need of our help. If you zoom in a little bit here, this is the country of Malawi. Village of Hope is in Lilongwe, and they are in a very poor suburb called Kauma. And this suburb has over 50,000 people in it. In the nation of Malawi, over half the population is under 18. Very interesting dynamics that come along with that. The directors of this organization are Jeff and Renata Walton. They're a Canadian family. Some of you remember Jeff. He was with us in 2019. And a shout out to them who are on the online chat. You get to be dialoguing directly with Jeff and Renata today in Malawi. And I have no idea what time it is there, but we're glad you're up and joining with us. This is a shot of their team. They have an amazing crew of people. This is their headmaster, Britton Mawa here. This is their teachers, their administration staff, grounds people, all that. The amazing team. And this partnership has definitely been going 2 ways as we're learning from them. And we're helping them out, but we're also being blessed with some of the things they have. That we need some of their faith and some of their just passion for the Lord. And so we've tried to come along with this organization and just say, hey, we don't know what you need. You know what you need. So how can we help? What can we do to help? And what do you need? And in 2019, they said, hey, we need more space here. We need admin space. We want to welcome everyone that comes into our campus with dignity, and so they needed an administration building. At the end of 2019, our church gave $130,000, and this is their kids. They're outlining where this building is going to be. As you can see, this is obviously in the rainy season there. And if you go to the next slide here, you saw in that video, we finished this building just a few weeks ago, and this is going to be an amazing cornerstone building for them, help them serve their community for, let's hope, 100 years that it's going to stand there. And you guys did that. This is our church's generosity. Last year, we said the same thing. Hey, what do you need? How can we help? And they said, hey, we need the next year's school classroom building. And this is a picture of one that was previously done. Ours is going to look almost identical to that. And our church gave, I think it was $50,000 to build this at the end of last year. And it's the one that we're building is going to be done in just a few months. And again, this year, we've said, hey, what do you need? How can we help? And they've identified 4 areas for our involvement in 2022 and onward. One of them is child sponsorships. For $41 a month, you get to sponsor a child. And full disclosure, it costs double that much. So they allow double sponsorship. Some people in our church have paid the whole amount for that sponsored child. Some do half. That gives a child access to education, nutrition, healthcare, a school uniform. It pays for their teachers, spiritual care and education. And if you're interested today, you can go to the foyer and sign up. If you're watching online, you can click the link. There's always going to be information on our website following this. And something that we have to do again this year, if you remember last year, we did reverse sponsorship, where you signed up and you didn't even get to pick your kid. The kid chose their sponsor families from a list. And we're going to show you a video on that in a moment. But we need to do the same thing. COVID has delayed their school year, and they actually haven't even welcomed their pre-kindergarten class usually starts this fall, and it's just been delayed. The government's delayed in Malawi the whole school year to start, which is good for the timing of the school building that we are building. It will hopefully be done as they start. But what's going to happen is we'll send a picture of you or your family over to Malawi, and these children will choose their sponsorship. And each year with Village of Hope, they bring in a new class of about 40 students. And my hope and prayer is that year upon year, we will sponsor them. We have currently 153 sponsorships. Sponsors are sponsoring about 93 kids, our own. And here's a video that just shows what's going on and how to sponsor a child this year. want to welcome Pastor Troy to the stage. Troy is kind of our primary point of contact with Village of Hope Malawi. What else would you tell us about child sponsorship?
Yeah, to get me out here to talk after that, I need a minute. But let me try to talk about child sponsorship for you. You want to have confidence when you are sponsoring a child that your money is going to support and really benefit that little boy or that little girl whose picture you have hanging on your refrigerator at home. And so, again, I visited VOH in Malawi in 2019, and I was just so impressed with the way that they care for every child that's enrolled in their program. And particularly, what I was really impressed by is how they care for the entire family of that child. So again, your sponsorship is going to those 4 pillars that makes up the VOH program. So education, nutrition, healthcare, and their discipleship, their spiritual care. Day to day, they get fed a nutritious meal every day at school. And when they're not in school, they'll often come to get that and take that home. For health care, all their medical appointments, the cost of that is covered. If they need medication, that medication is covered. If they need transportation to the hospital, that is covered. They have some relationships with local clinics that they have as well. School uniforms, shoes, supplies, backpacks, all that is covered by your sponsorship. Even it's something as simple as soap. The kids take home a bar of soap every week to promote good hygiene, because when you have good hygiene, then you stay healthy. And in addition to all of this, when I was in Malawi, more than anything, what we did was visit families. And I love the way the VOH team does that. Every family gets a visit on a regular basis. We always would bring a gift along of, again, some hygiene products, some food staples, some cooking supplies. And then we would just sit with them in their homes, ask them, how are you doing? How can we pray for you? And to hear those families share the joys and the struggles that they're having and be able to pray for them, they just know somebody's there for them. And so, I'd really encourage you to think about child sponsorship today.
Incredible. Yeah. Hey, one other, we said there's 4 ways they've identified we can be a part of this. The other one is just giving financially to capital projects. Every year at year end, for I don't know how long, we've been just saying, hey, let's do what the psalm writer said. To what can we look upon all our blessings, and what can we render back to God for how good He's been? And year end, it's a great time to do that. And we prayerfully bring before you a number of different opportunities each year. And one of them that they've asked for Village of Hope, we just said, how can we help? What do you need? And they said our greatest need is for a fence or for a wall that's going to go around our entire campus and just provide some safety and provide some security. It's not cheap. This entire project is going to cost around $215,000 Canadian. I know that sounds like a lot. It's about $135,000 for this fence kind of wall. These are not shots of anything they have. These are some photos that we're going to show you of just similar projects around Lilongwe. And it's about $135,000 for the wall, and about $80,000 for engineering work regarding stabilizing the riverbank and the slope that's on their property against heavy rains that come each year and just erode that. And it's a costly upfront investment, but this is going to be a wall that's about 8 to 10 feet high. They've asked for something that's attractive, steel fence where people can see in. Also, I've got a shot here of a kind of a guardhouse that they want with a sliding gate. And Troy, why you are acutely aware of why they need this project?
Yeah, so to have been there and now to talk to Jeff and Renata, as their enrollment increases, the number one reason is just for the safety of the children there. So let's put it this way, property boundaries and borders where they are in Malawi, they don't really mean very much. And they've got 3 or 4 acres, so it's quite convenient for people to just cut right across. But what that means is the kids can be out playing soccer at recess, and a motorcycle will just come flying through the game, horn honking, telling, getting the kids out of the way. Cars and trucks will cut across their property, the odd microbus, just because it's shorter. So the number one reason is for the kids' safety. And just another concern, though, is the property itself. So just a few weeks ago, they actually had some teens come onto the property, on the weekend. They do this here too, but they came onto the property. Unfortunately, they started a fire. They destroyed some trees that they're trying so hard to grow. And so you also saw the administration building, the cornerstone building there. it's very close to the actual road that drives by. One of the hazards of that is that people can walk in off the road, and on a busy day when the school is open and maybe somebody's not paying attention, it can happen where people will just reach in through the bars, grab whatever's on the desk, and off they go. And so there's just a real need to look after the safety of the kids and to protect the investment that's already being made, and so that we can continue to develop that site. And they have lots of exciting plans coming up.
And you were saying even with the riverbank that people are actually literally stealing their land. You go ahead.
Very interesting. They have a small river that runs along one side of their property, and people need to build their homes out of mud bricks. And so they literally are digging away at the riverbank, literally eating into their property. And so it's just time to protect all of that.
I'm struck by the timing of this. In my devotions these last couple weeks, I was just reading through, my schedule had me reading through Nehemiah, and I'm familiar with his story. Right at the end of the Old Testament narrative, here's this guy who's just grieved as his people have returned after exile to this land, but they have no wall. And it's kind of for the same reasons that they needed one there, just security for the investments. We've already invested about $250,000 here in facilities. We need that to secure those, and just the safety of his people. And that's why we want to do the same thing. Now, I know it seems like a lot of money. Hey, good news is we actually already have about $50,000 set aside for this project from your generous giving and money that's trickled in. And you can mark any giving to this VOH projects. And we really believe that God is able to multiply even meager gifts. So I'd encourage you to think about that at year end. Third thing that we talk about is short-term mission trips. And Troy was there in 2019. We have wanted to have some teams there. COVID's obviously put a wrench in that. What can you tell us about this way to serve them?
Yeah, we want to get a team from Oasis back to Malawi. I watched some of those videos and just think it's time to go back and make some more memories and to meet more people. So we want to get a team there as soon as possible. COVID clearly causes some travel hiccups, but it's nothing we can't overcome. There is some political unrest in places like Ethiopia. That is one of the places we would generally travel through, so we have to work around some of that. But when we do go, we're going to respond to the needs that Jeff and Renata and the team have. So some of the ideas that we have discussed would be, hey, bring a team to run a vacation Bible school for the kids, or Jeff can actually get nurses from Canada registered there on a temporary basis. So we could bring a medical team to do health checkups. We could train teachers and staff, do Bible training, painting and minor repairs around their facility. Even just a team that comes, and our goal is to build relationships and pray and spend time visiting families. So when we do go, we're going to go with two goals. We're going to go to fill some practical needs, and we're going to go to build relationships. So we're looking at probably a 6 to 8 month window. Give myself a little flexibility there. We want to get there soon.
The last way we can support is for Jeff and Renata themselves. They are full-time missionaries.
Yeah. So I want to back up on this one just a little bit. If you're here, you're kind of new to church, and you're wondering, why is this family from Canada in Malawi, and why is Oasis helping them out? We already heard today, Jesus has told us, he's asked us and instructed us to care for the poor and the orphan and the widow and the needy. And so we do that both here at home and around the world because of how we've been blessed. So Jeff and Renata are what we call missionaries. And as best as I can explain it, they're following Jesus the best way they know how, by being where they are right now. This kind of work is not for everybody, but it is for somebody. And so maybe you're even here today thinking, wow, how could I be involved in something like that? Maybe God is leading you towards that. But they're there filling their calling and their purpose for God's kingdom. So this is so important. We really want to highlight this. The VOH budget that is paid for by Your Child sponsorships is completely separate from the Walton family budget, okay? So Jeff and Renata raise 100% of their own financial support in order to be in Malawi, serving and working there, doing what they do. And I've worked with missionaries and church planters for 15 plus years. I want to say this, that is hard humbling work to raise those kind of finances. And it takes a lot of time and effort. There's anxiety and stress that goes along with that. Imagine asking people for your salary. That's what they do. And that takes away from the time and effort they can put directly into VOH. And so we want to be the kind of church that says, hey, let us do some of the heavy lifting for you. I'm pretty passionate about this one because I've seen how it affects people in the field doing this work. And I know what happens when we get behind them and we say, hey, we are here for you. We've got some of this covered for you. And it just takes that stress, that anxiety off of their shoulders, and they get to spend so much more time doing exactly what God has called them to do. They're caring for these children. They're caring for these families. They're raising up leaders like Alfred and their teachers and others who are going to become the future leaders in Malawi. So again, I'd love to talk to you about that. Really something for you to consider.
You know, we really believe it's an essential part of every Christian's discipleship journey as you follow Jesus, is to serve the poor. It's going to help you grow. You're going to get way more than you give. And if I could just take you back to how Paul ends his instructions to Timothy about how to pastor these rich Christians, he says, hey, command those who are rich in this present world, do good, command them to be rich in good deeds, be generous and willing to share. And if they do this in this way, they will lay up treasure for themselves. Remember last week we said you can't take it with you. You can send it on ahead. How? By investing in the gospel, investing in people that are in need. Firm foundation for the coming age so that they may take hold of the life that is truly life. This is where joy is found. This is where life is found. Don't get sucked into the lie of our age, of our culture. It says, it's all on me. It's all on me. If we get this right, can I say this? People live, okay? People live. This makes a huge difference. And this organization is worthy of your trust. And as your pastor, I hope and pray that you take hold of the life that is truly life. Our band has prepared an awesome closing song, and we're over time. So I'm just going to, I actually have to cut it again, 2 services in a row. We'll plan it for you again in the future. But hey, I want to leave you with an awesome blessing in closing, okay? This is my prayer for you. After this, you're going to have opportunity online or in the foyer to check out what's going on. But this is my prayer. It goes like this. May God bless you with discomfort at easy answers, half-truths, and superficial relationships so that you may live deep within your heart. May God bless you with anger at injustice, oppression, and exploitation of people so that you may work for justice, freedom, and peace. And may God bless you with tears to shed for those who suffer pain, rejection, hunger, and war, so that you may reach out your hand to comfort them and to turn their pain into joy. And may God bless you with enough foolishness to believe that you can make a difference in the world, so that you can do what others claim cannot be done, to bring justice and kindness to all our children and the poor. Amen. Hey, we invite you back next week. We're going to kick off our Christmas series. You don't want to miss that. Be sure to check out some of these amazing opportunities to help what God is doing in the world, people in Malawi. Go in the peace that's ours in following Jesus. Thanks, everyone.